Hi everyone, Spring Allergies here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of this new Bon Iver record, Sable, fABLE. Yes, here we have the latest full-length LP from singer and songwriter extraordinaire Mr. Justin Vernon, aka Bon Iver. One of the most respected but still elusive legends on the indie circuit, a man whose sound and voice has always somehow transcended the obscure world that it comes from, and that's despite him leaning into his fame and his creative process in unorthodox ways for somebody who is often kind of given the indie folk label, which you could say was right there in the beginning with the haunting beauty, eerie atmosphere, and unlikely touches of autotune on Justin's debut, Forever ago. He eventually went on to stick to his lo-fi guns on the highly anticipated follow-up album in 2011, around this time also landing a feature credit on the critically acclaimed My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Justin, for a time, was also playing more into his pop soul leanings with the Gang's musical collective for a bit, doing a deep dive into experimental electronics and art pop on the totally unexpected 22 a Million. That was back in 2016, and at this point, Vernon has spent over a decade zigging while most expect him to zag. And he is doing it once again, of course, on his latest LP here, but in a different way, Sable, fABLE, which we began to get inklings of last year in the form of the Sable EP, which was a 4-track affair and now makes for the first disc, as it were, of this album. It was one of my favorite EP releases from last year, and it was kind of interesting just how straightforward the material on it was, with Vernon really giving us a lot of no muss, no fuss acoustic balladry, intimate performances, subtle nuances, passionate vocals, memorable refrains, whether you're talking about the twinkly and mesmerizing things behind things, or the more laid-back, rustic, and heart-wrenching Speyside, whose lyrics are just loaded with remorse. The songwriting and instrumentals on this EP are just simple, gorgeous, personal. Justin even dabbles in a track that feels almost like a religious experience on the final cut here, Award Season, where the vocal phrasings and chord changes most definitely have a gospel feel. The spotlit vocals and slightly atmospheric production are a nice touch, and the organ and horn bridge crescendo in the second half is enrapturing. Its only sin is that it is just so brief, and while the track does end off in a somewhat inconspicuous way, it's gorgeous while it's on, and certainly left me kind of hanging, wanting more, wondering what this next chapter for Bon Iver would hold. And honestly, I was surprised to sort of see Sable kind of stacked onto a new album release in the way that it is here. But amazingly, this ends up not being so bad a thing, and we flow pretty seamlessly from one section of this record to the next, because the first track on disc 2, Short Story, brings what sounds like the drone that ends Award Season off back, with vocals that bring like a variation on some of the melodic ideas from Award Season. So it really does end up being like a transitional moment, an extension with more lush layers of keys and synths. So yeah, we truly do make an effective transition into the fABLE section of this record, where the first full song is Everything is Peaceful Love, which stylistically I would say is like a gorgeous culmination of the many genres Justin has been known to toy with as of late. You have these quirky homespun electronics sputtering away in the background, smooth soul-style vocals with some icy keys, and there's also a bit of a country and folk twang in the acoustics hanging in the background too. Now, I will say the vocal delivery is not going to be for everybody. Justin's falsetto to this day is very idiosyncratic for sure. It's kind of giving tiny Michael McDonald vibes in a way, which I know is a strange comparison to make, but there's still something to it, especially since the tune and the emotion is definitely there in the performance. And I love the lyrics of the song too, this idea of being in love and wondering if that passion, if that relationship is going to go the distance given all of the changes life tends to naturally throw your way. I would say there's a strong song and a similar mix of influences on the track Walk Home too, but it's a slightly different makeup with a very beefy, loose boom bap style beat hanging in the background, making for the song's backbone, some warm bass lines, more soulful vocals, and again, some of the more atmospheric layers in the mix have a country twang. Meanwhile, there are lots of vocal and piano embellishments that have a slightly gospel feel. The chipmunked sample chops are certainly an interesting touch as well, but one that makes this track sound wholly unique. And I'm also liking the tone change in the lyrics as well, as this song isn't so much based in fear, but instead wanting more closeness, more intimacy. The fire and the passion turns up on the following day one, which features not just Dijon, but Flock of Dimes too. There's a bit of duet-style vocal chemistry here, some killer harmonies as well. It's another powerful ballad that, in a way, is kind of assembled like a hip-hop or pop song, where you have what sounds like all of these fragmented sampled bits of percussion and piano, but there are still a lot of gorgeous and organic elements to the song still, like the roaring wall of horns in this crescendo in the second half of the song is absolutely powerful. Following this, we have the song From, which is a pretty significant switch up stylistically. I feel like we're getting a touch of heartland rock, but it's like something Springsteen or Seeger would have done, more late era, maybe a soft rock ballad to sort of hop on pop radio or something like that. And it's okay. I don't think it's the strongest moment on the album musically or instrumentally, but I do appreciate what the track brings to the record narratively in terms of adding to this ongoing thing about this love roller coaster Vernon is seemingly on with this record. We then move on to the much funkier I'll Be There, which I don't think leaves much stronger of an impression, even with its sort of out of place slap bass licks popping up here and there. On this track, we also hear Justin's vocals in a more raw state, I would say, which in a way does kind of feel like hearing the veil pull. The magic is a little lost, as I do think the singing comes across cartoonish inadvertently here. And I think to a degree the production also begins to fall off a little with the If Only I Could Wait track featuring Danielle Haim, which for sure had the potential to be a powerful moment on this record, especially with two very passionate singers on it. But there's something off about the instrumentation on this track. The synced up, thumping, echoed piano and drum hits, the strings, overlapping vocals, arpeggios, the brittle snare and hi-hat sequences. There's a lot going on, but very little of it actually sounds cohesive and like it's coming together. The whole track feels more cluttered than grandiose, and by the time it is firing on all cylinders in the second half, I'm just not really sure where to direct my attention. Following this, there's a rhythm, seemingly brings the storyline of this record to a close and strips things back to just beats and pianos and vocals, and the song is the better for it. And narratively, this track leaves this entire experience off on a very sad but sort of assuring cliffhanger, saying that right now there needs to be some space and some time taken away from each other, but eventually down the road hoping to reset things. And following this, with the closing track, we have a very serene key outro, which is quite nice. But yeah, very interesting project and tracklist build on this one. While I was highly impressed with what the final product of this record was, like a lot of things Vernon does, it somehow feels out of the purview of like a normal album release, even narratively, because this isn't quite a breakup album, it's more a taking a break album. And yeah, it's not a normal sequence for a record as well, because to start things off, you have this opening EP, and then this transition short story track, which sort of brings us into literally a short story, which the rest of the record tells us. But outside of a few pockets where the instrumentation and songcraft leaves a bit to be desired, for the most part, I thought this album was great and one of Justin's most beautiful and straightforward projects ever. So yeah, a curious one, but a very, very, very enjoyable one from Mr. Vernon on this project. One that I feel I'm going to have to give a strong 7 to a light 8. Yeah. Transition, have you given this record a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Bon Iver, forever.